hoping to give them better ideas taking into the process. I'm going to have a kid come up to there and read a story and I think all just have, there's so many of them, I think all have everybody.
I don't want it to be taped together or any of that. I want it to look, well, I'm a high-end guy, but I want somebody, and I want to build it with people that talk about it too. Really say, you need to be about 5'7", right? This is what this is made for. And
appreciate it so much that you, knowing that we have so few people, moved close to the front, and those people that are sitting in the back, I hope you realize you've come up halfway and still in the back. Please enjoy the musical stylings of David Norton. I think is your announcement before? Okay, go ahead.
This being Memorial Day weekend, I got the clever idea, maybe, of doing pieces in memory of each other. So we're starting off with a generic prelude for the lute by Johann Sebastian Bach. And then the offering piece is a homage to Bach written by a Brazilian composer, Heitor Villa-Lobos. And it's been very much the same texture and style as the Bach is. And then the ending piece is reminiscences, homage to Villa-Lobos. So each composer is building on their own. Has little to do with death and dying, other than the fact that the prior composers are dead.
Welcome. As we begin our service, please turn off those nasty little electronic devices that we all seem to be attached to at the hip these days. That way we can enjoy the service. We do invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary, and there is a book there to note joys and concerns. If you have little ones, we are having a nursery downstairs. And after our service, I believe we will still have some sort of refreshments downstairs. Finally, please note the announcements in your order of service. There are many ways to be engaged in this vibrant community. And just a quick little reminder that we do have our annual picnic in 2 weeks. So save the date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I hope everybody realizes that although Tom Zane is in the order of service, he's not here today and Mary's taking his place. So that was not Tom Zane. However, my name is Jan Vanderhunt, and I'm a member of the board and co-president with Matt Lund here at South Allen. We are a covenantal rather than a creedal church. That means that from the pulpit, we want words to be spoken personally and sincerely. And I'm sure our speaker today will emphasize that. We have no creedal beliefs or creeds. We have no beliefs or creeds. Instead, using our 7 principles to guide us, members covenant with each other for mutual support. So in the same spirit, I give our traditional Sunday service greeting to all who enter here. Come, come, whoever you are. You are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter who you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. Not just your willing hands, your loving heart, or your open mind, but you, the complete you, exactly as you are. You are welcome here.
Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, is believed to have been a prince turned mystic who lived and taught in India sometime between the 6th and 4th centuries BCE. Recognized by Buddhists as an enlightened teacher, he taught what he called a middle way between pure sensual indulgence and severe asceticism. Followers of this middle way recognize that having a mindfulness of death is a healthy approach to living with peace. All living beings will, one day, die. And contemplating this reality can bring awareness and can lessen fear and suffering. In the Buddha's words, passed on through oral traditions across centuries and many cultures to arrive here today. Just as when weaving, one reaches the end, with fine threads woven throughout, so is the life of humans.
Would you all please now rise in body or spirit as we open with our hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
And
offer why I'm here in South Valley. And it started very practically. I graduated from seminary in 2015, came home, and in addition to searching for a job, I needed a congregation for the ordination process for both community and sponsorship. So I visited both First Church and South Valley, and it was during the summer when, much like today, we had lay-led services, and so I got to meet the congregation and get to know you all before I ever met Patty. So it was because of you that I decided to make South Valley my home. And since then, I have felt very supported. I have felt encouragement as I have made my journey through, or continuing through the ordination process. I've learned more fully about what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. I was not raised Uniter. I converted while in seminary. And one thing that, in particular, that I appreciate about South Valley is the commitment to being a covenantal church. That we learn together, we grow together, we support each other, we even challenge each other. And so it has been a wonderful growing process, and I hope to continue growing, and I'm grateful for all the support.
It's now time for a children's story. Will the children or the young at heart, the people willing to sit on the floor here in the front, please come forward?
Everybody is really, honestly, everyone is welcome to sit on the floor. If you want to pretend to be a child today, I will be really excited.
Part of the reason I sit on the front row is so that I have a chair and still get the same effect.
Thank you. And stick it up. Today's story is about peace and how and why and where we can find peace in our lives. So as you were coming in, Dana, I believe, handed out some quotations to many of you. So I hope you have these slips of paper, and as I read this story, I'm going to ask people out there in the congregation today to help us tell our story. Are you ready? You can help us. For there to be peace in the world, there must be peace in nations. Does anybody have number 1 that they can read for us?
What you do not want done to you, do not do to others. Confucius.
Thank you. Did you guys hear that okay? What you don't want done to you, you shouldn't do to others. That's from Confucius.
There must be peace in the cities.
For there to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. Who has number 2?
Everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it.
Thank you. Look at your beautiful yellow skirt today. I love it. Has anyone told you how beautiful it is today? Sometimes people don't see everything that's beautiful. But we can try to pay attention and see more things that are beautiful. For there to be peace in cities, there must be peace in neighborhoods. Who has number 3?
Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and greed. If people all over the world would do this, it would change the earth. William Faulkner.
Thank you. Number 4. Anyone? I'll read number 4. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. 5.
I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. Unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word.
Thank you. For Martin Luther King Jr. And number 6.
To reach peace, teach peace. From Pope John Paul II.
Thank you. Do you have the next page? For there to be peace in neighborhoods, there must be peace in schools. Do you go to school? Not yet. Do you go to school? Do you like school? You're 4? Wow. You're 5 now? That's awesome. Who has number 7?
Friendship is the only cure for hatred, the only guarantee of peace.
Thank you. Number 8?
One of the secrets of inner peace is the practice of compassion. The Dalai Lama.
Thank you. 9?
Peace is always beautiful. Walt Whitman.
Thank you. For there to be peace in schools, there must be peace in our homes. Number 10.
Peace is the only battle we wage opportunity.
And 11.
All works of love are works of peace. Mother Teresa.
Thank you. For there to be peace in our homes, there must be peace in our hearts. Number 12.
The great gift of human beings is that we have the power of empathy. Ministry.
When there is peace in our hearts, there will be peace in our homes. Number 13.
An eye for an eye makes the whole world one. Gandhi.
And 14.
This is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. Peace will win.
Thank you. When there is peace in our hearts, there will be peace in our homes. And when there is peace in our homes, there will be peace in our schools. Number 15.
If our day is going to be this wild, we can be peaceful and happy, not only we, but everyone on the planet. This is the most basic kind of peace. Work, peace and fire.
Take not on.
It's not hard.
He's a Vietnamese Buddhist teacher who lives in France. Thank you. And when there is peace in our schools, there will be peace in our neighborhoods. Who has number 25? a lot of numbers.
Peace is a daily overcoming process, gradually changing feelings, slowly eroding old failures, quietly building new structures.
John F. Kennedy, thank you. And when there is peace in our neighborhoods, there will be peace in our cities. 26.
This is from the Dalai Lama. When we feel love and kindness towards others, it not only makes others feel loved and cared for, but it helps us also to develop inner happiness and peace.
Thank you. There will be peace in our cities when there is peace in our nations. Number 27.
When people talk, listen completely. Ernest Hemingway.
And 28.
When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Jimmy Hendrix.
Thank you. There will be peace in our nations, and we will have peace in our world. Number 29.
Peace can be made in the neighborhoods, the living room, the playing fields, and in the classrooms of our country. You still make personal choices, and you are still in charge of your own destiny. By President Jimmy Carter.
Thank you. And we have another 29 because I made a mistake.
Peace is present right here and now, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. Every breath we take, every step we make, can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. The question is whether or not we are in touch with it. We need only to be awake, alive in the present moment. Teach not harm.
Thank you. We have two more quotes. Number 30.
30 is the same as the one she just read.
Do we have 31? Okay, I think that's our last one.
We'll end with a happy blessing. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze blow new strength into your being. May you walk gently through the world and know its beauty all the days of your life.
Thank you so much for sharing this story with us.
What do you guys see here?
The moon and stars and the sun, our whole world can bring peace, and we can bring peace to our whole world. Thank you.
There are no classes today, so the children will go back and sit with their parents. Again, a reminder for the very, very young ones, we do have the nursery. If you will join me in reading the offering words. Today's offering will be shared with Save Our Canyons, which is a local organization that is dedicated to protecting the beauty and wilderness of the Wasatch Canyons, mountains, and foothills. And I'm pretty sure that's where a lot of our congregants are right now. Please join with me as we say our offering. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share in the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
Today's meditation is from John C. Page, 1961 translation of Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, the 11th chapter. I invite you during this meditation to close your eyes, imagine and visualize the images spoken, breathe deeply together. 30 spokes converge upon a single hub. It is on the whole in the center that the use of the cart hinges. We make a vessel from a lump of clay. It is the empty space within the vessel that makes it useful. We make doors and windows for a room, but it is the empty space that makes the room livable. Thus, while the tangible has advantages, it is the intangible that makes it useful. For the past few weeks, as I've been preparing to speak on living and dying peacefully with you today, I've had the pleasure of sharing my excitement with myriad friends, co-workers, family members, acquaintances, fellow churchgoers, community activists, librarians, ministers, and politicians who hail from Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, all over the state of Utah, even North Carolina, Florida, California, Oregon, Colorado, and New York. They're Unitarian Universalists, humanists, atheists, Mormons, Catholics, Christians, Muslims, Jews, and Buddhists. All of these people who have expressed excitement alongside me in my journey. My name is Elaine Stehel, and I've been a humanist minister since 2011, certified from the American Humanist Association and their ministerial arm, the Humanist Society in Washington, D.C. I was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I still have many dear friends and family members who are Mormon. I met a wonderful woman about 9 years ago who would become my wife in 2013, and she was raised Catholic, so now I also have many dear friends and family members who are Catholic. My wife identifies as agnostic and not religious. She doesn't have very fond memories of pews. And I identify as a humanist, atheist, Unitarian Universalist, and Buddhist. It's as if I can never have too many labels. Just tack on lesbian and anti-racist and feminist while you're at it. What I'm most grateful for in my life is the diversity that I'm surrounded with every day. Diversity in the public who I work with in the public libraries, diversities of opinions and viewpoints shared in person and online. I genuinely love surrounding myself with people who look, think, and act very differently than I do. It's not threatening or frightening to me because diversity is strength and beauty. It's also for me, as a humanist, a pathway for peace. I feel engaged and constantly challenged by meeting and spending time with people who inspire me to question not only everything that I grew up thinking and believing, but also continuing to question everything that I continue to learn as an adult making my way in this world. When I ask myself what I most hope to share with this world, with children of my own, should I someday become a parent, with the siblings, nieces, and nephews I already spend all the time I can spoiling to pieces, but mostly with my own family in my own home, with my own coworkers and friends in my neighborhood and my city, the thing I most wish to teach or to give. When I ask myself this, the answer that I find in my deepest meditations is peace. I didn't always know or understand what peace looked like, or smelt, or tasted, or felt like when I was growing up. Peace is something that can be difficult to find in chaotic situations, and it feels elusive, intangible, it can even feel unreal, especially when we find ourselves, like Anne of Green Gables, in the depths of despair. But peace can be found, touched, and felt. It is real. And peace can also be developed, created, and wrought from raw materials, like sadness and happiness, blended together with anger and calm, sorrow and joy, annoyance and compassion. Every human emotion we experience has what can seem like its opposite. If we feel sick, it's usually only then that we crave wellness. If we feel distracted, it's only then that we remember and strive for focus. We often express this conundrum with truisms like opposites attract, or we can't taste the bitter without the sweet. But in day-to-day life, I find that peace can feel elusive unless I deliberately go looking for it. Peace has felt intangible to me until I've gone outside to sit under a tree, touching the bark and the grass and smelling the flowers that are blossoming. Peace has seemed unreal until I have slowed down, paused, waited, prayed, or meditated. And then we can hear it. And cultivating this awareness of peace, we can learn to invite it into our hearts and minds, even when chaotic situations inevitably arise. Then chaos doesn't have to feel so terrorizing. I once read an article about a small community of people who researchers were studying to learn about how and why they responded so particularly well to stress. In most places and cultures throughout human history, when chaos, terror, or destruction occur, people scream, they run, wars break out, people are hurt, we feel afraid. These are all very common human reactions. But this group of people I read about came to the attention of researchers because they were displaced from their homes by a natural disaster, but they were calm and at peace. All of them, with their tiny babies, their toddlers, teenagers, and adults, they responded to every horror that nature could throw at them with calm, collected ease. They continued to nurse and sing to their children. They kept each other close and provided what calm and compassion they could, and no matter what was happening around them, they remained at peace. This is the kind of peace that I strive for, peace that isn't dependent on anything outside of myself, and yet that spreads around to those that I'm the closest with, that I work with and associate with every day. I have no doubt that teaching our children these methods of calm, collected, meditative, mindful breathing, compassion and comfort in the face of chaos and upheaval, when we teach peace, we can change our world for the better. Inevitably, because we are human and death is unavoidable, we will die. And people, pets, animals, and sentient beings all around us will die. Because we live, we will also die. These realities are two sides of one coin that we all share. From a humanist perspective, we all have this in common. There is no single human who has ever transcended death, or even who has lived very many years past 100. If we do have a century here on Earth, we can see and experience much more in the overall scope of human history than most other humans do see or experience. But even these lucky few who have passed 100 or even 110 years have never transcended death. This isn't frightening to me, this awareness that I will die. I find it comforting to imagine that parts of my ancestors have traveled through many humans to arrive in what makes me who I am today, and that select parts of them will combine with parts of me to continue traveling on through generations of humans to come. Even if I have no biological children of my own, humans are constantly affecting change in other human beings, and we are constantly passing along parts of ourselves to other beings. I see common personality traits in myself and my younger siblings, in myself and my nieces and nephews, and every moment I spend with them creates imprints on the shaping of their lives and will continue to change who they become in ever so small yet powerful, literally life-changing ways. Death is life-changing, in essence. And change doesn't have to be scary. It can be exciting, even if it's painful. We have the opportunity throughout our lives to learn from and grow stronger and wiser through all varieties of life-changing events, births and deaths, weddings and divorces, graduations, retirements, moving, taking a new job, unemployment, homelessness, going back to school, changing careers, midlife crises, even vacations. Psychologists tell us that too many changes within a year or two can cause significant distress for our psyches, even if some of these changes are considered good. Perhaps we move to a new town, attend a wedding and a funeral. Coming all together, change can certainly be challenging. But change can also be inspiring. Divorces can lead us out of negative situations and into lives of greater freedom and opportunity than we had realized that we were missing. Periods of unemployment or career changes can enlighten us to opportunities for meaningful work that we hadn't previously considered. All change can simultaneously be seen as a challenge as well as an opportunity. Some of you may have seen the TED Talks on the powerful choice to cultivate a growth mindset and how viewing challenges as opportunities for growth can lead us throughout the course of our lives into continuously better situations. One of the most inspiring stories I've heard of a person living and dying peacefully is the life and death of Henry David Thoreau. When I read Walden, I can hear firsthand of Thoreau's experiments in living peacefully. And when I read of his later years and his death at the young age of 44, I am deeply inspired by this man who chose to surround himself only by nature and select few family members and friends, and who even in his final days continued to journal, write, and create, weaving beautiful words together with the hope of contributing to the beauty of our earth and our human culture. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., many years later, read Thoreau's Civil Disobedience through many times while he was attending Morehouse College. He wrote in his autobiography, "Here, in this courageous New Englander's refusal to pay his taxes and his choice of jail rather than support a war that would spread slavery's territory into Mexico, I made my first contact with the theory of nonviolent resistance. Fascinated by the idea of refusing to cooperate with an evil system, I was so deeply moved, I became convinced that non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. No other person has been more eloquent and passionate in getting this idea across than Henry David Thoreau. As a result of his writings and personal witness, we are the heirs of a legacy of creative protest. The teachings of Thoreau came alive in our civil rights movement. Indeed, they are more alive than ever before, whether expressed in a sit-in at lunch counters, a freedom ride into Mississippi, a peaceful protest in Albany, Georgia, a bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. These are the outgrowths of Thoreau's insistence that evil must be resisted and that no moral man can patiently adjust to injustice. Thoreau's final words were, "Now comes good sailing," which I find a very apt depiction of what has come, of the many worldwide nonviolent resistors and leaders who have been inspired by Thoreau since his death. I'd like to close with the third stanza of a poem written on the topic of death by the Tibetan First Panchen Lama in the 17th century. May we realize that there is no time to waste. Death being definite, but the time of death indefinite. What has gathered will separate. What has been accumulated will be consumed without residue. At the end of a rising comes descent. The finality of birth is death.
Will you now please rise in body or spirit and sing with me the closing hymn, number 324, Where My Free Spirit Onward Leads.
ask our lay leaders how we're doing on time. Good, cut it, or we can go longer. So, often when I speak in front of people, I am presenting about what is humanism and what do humanists believe. And this is my first opportunity to present a sermon on a given topic with a congregation. So thank you so much for being here. I wanted, before I give my closing words, if that's all right, to open up a discussion with all of you about living and dying peacefully, about Thoreau's life, or questions that you may have about what humanists believe about life and death. Does anyone have any thoughts that they'd like to share or questions for me?
The Unitarian Universalist approach is to have no specific beliefs as a group, but to have encouragement for each of us to find our own. And humanists have the same approach.
Yes, very much. Thank you. So I consider myself a Unitarian Universalist because the 7 principles resonate so profoundly with me since I first read them in the early 2000s. And I also identify very strongly as a humanist because of the Humanist Manifesto, which was written by many Unitarian Universalists, actually, and early post-Christian theologians in the early 1900s. And it's been revised since a few times. It's in its 3rd edition, the manifesto is. And some of the beliefs that they sort of outline are very open-ended and inclusive of many different viewpoints. And really the only overarching theme for humanists is a belief that supernaturalism is not the way to find answers, that the natural world is, and that scientific inquiry and thought and understanding can help us cultivate awe and mystery and curiosity for our world. And so, yeah, we humanists don't have a very specific divine dogma or creed similar to Unitarians.
I just walked around Walden Pond.
So did I a few months ago.
3 days ago. I am moving from Cape Cod after 26 years, long time Unitarian, family in Peter's left, lots of us, working in the Unitarian Church on the Cape to California. So this is a very Cape. I just happened, my daughter said, "Do you want to go to the UU fellowship?" I said, "Yes."
Welcome. Thank you. On your way to California. Wow. Thank you. And I am on my way back east. Crossing paths here. I am moving to Vermont in about a month, and I'm very, very excited to be within driving distance of Walden Pond. I visited there for the first time. I felt like I made my humanist pilgrimage this past summer to Boston for a UU heritage trip with the First Unitarian Universalists youth group. My younger siblings attend the youth services at First UU, and so I was able to be a chaperone to their Boston heritage trip this past year. Any other questions or comments?
I believe that humanism is this church, the peace and the kindness of the people within. and the open hands and hearts that extend to those who enter through the doors.
Thank you. I feel so at home in many Unitarian Universalist societies because of that. I think what really drew me to identify as a Unitarian alongside a humanist was the passion for social justice work as a community. Atheists and humanists can be a little hard to wrangle. I have a little button that says cat herder because everybody loves to go their own way. But I love that, like I said at the beginning of my words, that I love that challenge of diversity of opinion and diversity of life viewpoints and ways of viewing the world and what we should and shouldn't be doing. I mean, I feel constantly challenged in such a great, creative, inspiring way by the social justice work in UU churches, that helping hands mentality of what are we going to do in our world to make it a better place to live and a better place to die, right? Because all of us, we don't want to live in fear of death. We want to live in a world where we can feel that our lives have purpose and meaning beyond our death. And community is just a vital way of providing that connection. There are so many people here that we remember and honor by our continued presence in community, that we affect each other's lives in such ongoing ways.
We might have run this one. As a humanist, do you feel a particular ethical or ideological obligation in the way that you interact with literal religious figures? Can you visit their worldview? Do you need to kind of stand apart from it? Like how, especially ministerially, like
Yeah.
as a humanist minister, how do you interface with literal religious believers, especially around difficult life moments, including that?
Yes, thank you for that question, because it's such a powerful work that ministers do, trying to help people through times of transition. So I have the exciting opportunity of officiating at a wedding just last night and joining this blended family of 7 together, and it just felt like this wonderful new life challenge for them and change and growth for their family. And I also, a couple of years ago, officiated at my first funeral, and it was for a family member. My stepbrother passed away very young and unexpectedly, and I was asked to give his service, and I was so honored to be able to celebrate his life in a way that may have been meaningful to him and the way that he viewed the world, while also incorporating the beliefs and traditions of his family members who believed differently than him. And so I think I would say that I am very comfortable inhabiting the literal views of the world because I see them as so symbolic of very real, true things that humans experience constantly. So if it's comforting to another person to have a certain traditional prayer read over their deathbed, I would be honored to read that for them and assist them in their transition. I would be equally honored to be asked to provide a personal perspective on what death and change and transition sort of means. But I think that it can be a real challenge for people to sort of step outside of what's personal for them and recognize what is sort of transcendent, what does bridge all of the diversity that we share. We do still have humanity in common. And there are so many different linguistic ways of expressing those common emotions. things that can be comforting for people, or can be empowering, or can be inspiring. And I find that many religious people that I know, dogmatically religious or creedal believers in a certain belief structure, many of these people also share humanistic ideals of making our world a better place. And so I really don't care where you're coming from. If you think Jesus is telling you to make the world a better place, I don't mind. That's great. I really don't mind where you find your inspiration. And that's, again, what really draws me to Unitarian Universalism as well, because we say that we take from, that we're inspired by all of these many different worldviews in helping us craft and wade through our own beliefs. A really inspiring opportunity I had this past year, along with the Boston Heritage Trip, these Unitarian Universalist youth were encouraged throughout the course of the previous year before their Heritage Trip. They were invited to work with a mentor in the congregation regularly, weekly, to craft a personal belief statement and then share it at the pulpit with our entire congregation, which can be very intimidating for an 8th grader. It's very inspiring to see teenagers wade through those tough questions of life and death and God and belief and religion. And it was so wonderful to see that growth period for them over the course of the year, how they came to craft they called them faith statements. And many of them were humanists and atheists, and so that word faith feels a little weird, right? But they all crafted the most beautiful faith statements, and each were so individualistic and different, and drew from different inspirational viewpoints within their own lives, from Wiccan practices and pagan practices, and so many earth-based religions, and it's an inspiring thing to see. Okay, I'm going to give our closing words. Walt Whitman was a humanist, and his poetry collection, Leaves of Grass, which was first published in the mid-1800s, was considered very controversial for his time. A contemporary of his, English author D.H. Lawrence, told us that the Americans are unworthy of their Whitman. And Ralph Waldo Emerson also offered high extensive praise of Whitman's work. I'll close today with these final lines from the 150th anniversary edition of Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Great is goodness. I do not know what is any more than I know what health is, but I know it is great. Great is wickedness. I find I often admire it just as much as I admire goodness. Do you call that a paradox? It certainly is a paradox. The eternal equilibrium of things is great, and the eternal overthrow of things is great. And there is another paradox. Great is life, and real and mystical, wherever and whoever. Great is death. Sure as life holds all parts together, death holds all parts together. Sure as the stars return again after they merge in the light, death is great as life.